The screens lit up everywhere at once. Every television, every phone, every computer showed the same image. A tall, alien creature stood before cameras, its skin gray and smooth like polished stone. Its eyes were black and empty. The creature wore elaborate robes that shimmered with colors humans had never seen before. "People of Earth," the alien said. Its voice came through perfectly in every language. "I am High Chancellor Vrax of the Zaltharian Galactic Empire. We have watched your species for some time now." Jack Morrison stood in the command center deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. He was a military commander with 25 years of experience. He had gray hair and tired eyes. Right now, those eyes stared at the screen with growing unease. Something felt wrong. "This is supposed to be first contact," said Megan Sullivan, the young communications officer standing next to him. Her hands shook with excitement. "This is the greatest day in human history." Jack said nothing. He just watched. On the screen, Vrax continued speaking. "Your species has violated galactic law. You sent machines beyond your solar system. You reached into space that does not belong to you. This is forbidden." Lisa Chen watched from her research station in Antarctica. She was a scientist who studied alien life, though she had never expected to actually meet any. The cold wind howled outside, but inside the heated facility, she felt her blood turn to ice. "Violation of territorial expansion laws requires punishment," Vrax said. His face showed no emotion. "The sentence is death. 10 billion of your species will be eliminated as a proportional response. This will serve as education for your survivors and example for the galaxy." For a moment, the world held its breath. People thought it was a joke. It had to be a joke. Then, the sky began to fall. Admiral Kyle Bennett was near Neptune with Earth's small fleet of experimental spacecraft. They were testing new engines when the message came through. He watched on his ship's monitors as streaks of light fell from orbit onto Earth. Each streak was a kinetic weapon, a massive piece of metal, accelerated to incredible speed. The first one hit Beijing. The city simply vanished in a flash of light. Then Mumbai. Then Cairo. Lagos. Mexico City. New York. Los Angeles. Moscow. The attacks came one after another, perfectly spaced, perfectly timed. Jack ran through the corridors of Cheyenne Mountain as alarms blared. The mountain shook. He could feel the impacts from hundreds of miles away. Staff members ran in every direction, some crying, some screaming into phones. "Get me damage reports," Jack shouted. "Get me anything." Megan's voice cracked as she read from her screen. "Satellites show. Commander, they're hitting everything. Every major city. They're not stopping." Lisa watched from Antarctica as the feed showed continent after continent burning. She saw Australia's cities light up and die. She saw Europe disappear under clouds of fire. She fell to her knees, unable to process what her eyes were seeing. The bombardment lasted 3 hours. When it ended, 10 billion people were dead. The number was exact. The Zaltharians had calculated precisely how many to kill. Jack stood in the command center surrounded by shocked survivors. Through the reinforced mountain, they were safe. But the world outside was gone. Satellite images showed a planet transformed into a graveyard. Cities were craters. The sky was black with ash and smoke. "Sir," Megan whispered, "they're broadcasting it. The aliens are showing this to the entire galaxy. They want everyone to see what they did to us." Jack's jaw clenched. His hands formed fists so tight his nails cut into his palms. Around him, officers wept. Some vomited. Some just stared at nothing, their minds broken by the scale of death. Admiral Bennett's voice came through the speakers. His ship was still safe, hidden in the outer solar system. "Commander Morrison, what are your orders?" Jack looked at the screens. He saw Vrax's face on one monitor, the alien already moving on to other business. On another screen, He saw the burning planet that used to be his home. His wife had been in Denver. His 2 children had been visiting their grandmother in Seattle. All of them were gone now, erased in a flash of heat and light. But Jack Morrison was a soldier. He had trained his entire life to make decisions when others could not. He pushed his grief down into a deep place inside himself. There would be time to mourn later. Right now, the remaining 2 billion humans needed him to act. "Bennett, keep your fleet hidden," Jack said. His voice was steady and cold. "Lisa, gather every scientist who survived. I need you working on captured alien technology immediately." "What are you planning?" Lisa asked over the communication line. Jack pulled up a file on his computer. It was a contingency plan. Something created years ago as a worst-case scenario. It had a name: Operation Alien Extinct. "They wanted to teach us a lesson," Jack said quietly. "They wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you break their rules. They killed 10 billion of us to make a point." He pressed a button and transmitted the operation file to every surviving military installation on Earth, under the oceans, and on the Moon. In orbit above Earth, 50 Zaltharian warships remained. They were there to watch the survivors and make sure humanity stayed dead. They had no idea what was coming. "We're going to teach them a lesson right back," Jack said. "We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you push humans too far. We're going to show them what happens when you give us a reason to unite." Megan looked at him with wide eyes. "How? We're just 2 billion people against an empire of thousands of worlds." Jack pulled up images of the Zaltharian ships in orbit. Their technology was advanced, far beyond anything humans had built. But humans had always been good at learning, good at adapting, good at surviving. "We start small," Jack said. "We learn from them. We take their technology. We make it better. And then, we make them regret they ever found us." Outside, the sky was black with ash. The world smelled of death. But deep underground, in bases hidden across the planet and in facilities under the ice, humanity began to plan. They had been knocked down. They had been nearly destroyed. But they were not extinct yet. 6 months had passed since the sky fell. The Earth was a different world now. The clouds never cleared anymore. Ash still floated in the air, blocking the sun. The temperature had dropped 10 degrees everywhere. But underground, in the darkness beneath dead cities and frozen tundra, humanity survived. Jack Morrison walked through the tunnels of Cheyenne Mountain. The facility had grown. Engineers had dug new passages, connecting to old mining systems. 20,000 people now lived in this mountain. Across the planet, similar communities existed. Some lived in subway tunnels under ruined cities. Others lived in deep ocean stations. The moon base held 15,000 more, 2 billion survivors. That was all that remained. "Commander, you need to see this." The voice belonged to Amy Rodriguez. She was a young scientist with dark circles under her eyes. Like everyone else, she had not slept properly in months. She led Jack through corridors until they reached a large room filled with equipment. In the center of the room sat a piece of alien technology. It was a fighter craft that had crashed in Nevada. The Zaltharians had left it there, thinking all humans were dead or broken. They were wrong about both. "We figured out how their systems work," Amy said. She was excited despite her exhaustion. "Their ships all connect to a central network. They use quantum communication to coordinate everything. Weapons, shields, navigation. All of it runs through one system." Jack studied the alien machinery. "Can we hack it?" "Better than that," Amy said with a tired smile. "We can poison it. I've designed a virus. If we can plant it in their network, it will spread to every ship connected to the system." Across the room, Lisa Chen worked with alien biological samples. She had discovered something interesting about Zaltharian physiology. The aliens were advanced, But their bodies had evolved on a world very different from Earth. They had never encountered certain types of radiation. Their shielding blocks high-energy weapons perfectly, Lisa explained to a group of officers. But low-frequency radiation passes right through. The kind we use in medical scanners. To them, it's invisible. To their bodies, it's lethal. In another part of the complex, Lieutenant Marcus Cole trained with a team of Special Forces soldiers. Marcus was 30 years old and had lost his entire family in the bombardment. He had turned his grief into purpose. Now he trained others to do what needed to be done. "We're not soldiers anymore," Marcus told his team. "We're ghosts. We're the thing they don't see coming." Above them, 50 Zaltharian warships orbited Earth. They were bored. The humans were defeated, and garrison duty was tedious. The Zaltharian crews spent their time boasting about the bombardment, sharing recordings of dying cities with friends across the Empire. They thought they were safe. Jack called a meeting with his top people. Amy showed them her virus. Lisa explained the radiation weakness. Marcus presented his plan for a boarding action. Admiral Bennett joined the meeting through a secure transmission from his hidden fleet near Neptune. "It's suicide," Bennett said flatly. "Even if everything works perfectly, most of the team won't come back," Marcus spoke up. "We all died 6 months ago, Admiral. Everything since then has been borrowed time. I have 50 volunteers ready to go." Jack made the decision. The plan would proceed. 3 weeks later, a Zaltharian supply shuttle approached one of the garrison ships. It transmitted the correct identification codes. The codes were real because Marcus and his team had taken them from a supply depot on the moon. The Zaltharians never knew the depot had been raided. The shuttle docked. 50 humans in stolen Zaltharian environment suits walked through the airlock. They looked wrong, moved wrong. But the Zaltharian crew did not notice at first. By the time they realized something was happening, Marcus's team had already spread through the ship. The firefight was brief and brutal. Humans used weapons designed by Amy that emitted the lethal radiation. Zaltharians died without understanding why their shields failed. Marcus reached the ship's computer core and plugged in a device containing Amy's virus. The virus uploaded in seconds. Then it began to spread. On 49 other warships, Zaltharian crews noticed their systems acting strangely. Lights flickered, gravity stabilizers failed. Then the ships simply died. Every system shut down at once. Engines, weapons, life support, everything. The dead ships fell from orbit. They burned up in the atmosphere or crashed into the ocean. The Zaltharian crews never had time to send a distress signal. Marcus and his team tried to escape, but the ship they had boarded was also dying. They had known this would happen. The virus could not tell friend from enemy once it spread. Marcus stood on the bridge and watched through the viewport as Earth grew closer. "We got them all," he said into his radio. "Operation successful." The ship hit the Pacific Ocean at terminal velocity. There were no survivors. Admiral Bennett received the signal from Jack. His fleet powered up their engines for the first time in months. They had been hiding in the shadow of Neptune, waiting for this moment. Now, they accelerated toward Earth at full speed. The Zaltharians who had escaped the virus in their command ship desperately tried to flee. They broadcast a distress call, but it would take hours to reach the nearest Imperial outpost. Bennett's ships arrived in minutes. The human fleet was small. Just 10 ships against 1 Zaltharian command cruiser. But the battle was never fair. The humans attacked with a fury that no other species had ever shown. They used tactics the Zaltharians did not understand. They rammed their ships into the cruiser when weapons failed. They boarded through hull breaches. Captain Ryan Foster piloted his fighters straight into the cruiser's engine section. The explosion tore the enemy ship in half. Ryan died instantly, but he died knowing he had hurt them back. When it was over, all 51 Zaltharian warships were destroyed. Not a single alien survived. Jack watched from Cheyenne Mountain as debris rained down from orbit. The fleet was gone. Earth was free, for the first time in 6 months. But more Zaltharians would come. Many more. How long before they send reinforcements? Lisa asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3, Jack said. They'll send scouts first. We can't fight them again, one of the officers said. We used everything for this attack. Jack shook his head. We're not fighting them here. We're taking the war to them. He activated the communication system and addressed what remained of humanity. His voice reached every bunker, every tunnel, every underwater facility. 6 months ago, they killed 10 billion of us. They did it to teach us our place. They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to obey. They were wrong about what humans do when you push us. We don't submit. We don't give up. We get angry. We get even. On the screens behind him, images showed the burning Zaltharian ships. Marcus Cole and 50 brave humans died today so we could strike back. Their sacrifice won't be forgotten. But this is just the beginning. We've learned their technology. We've found their weaknesses. Now we're going hunting. Admiral Bennett's fleet limped back toward Earth. The ships were damaged but intact. In the shipyards under the moon, engineers had already begun building new vessels using captured Zaltharian technology combined with human innovation. Amy Rodriguez worked on improving her virus. Lisa Chen trained medical teams on Zaltharian biology. And in every human settlement, people who had been broken by grief began to feel something else. Hope and anger. The kind of anger that could burn for years. Jack stood alone in his office and looked at a picture on his desk. His wife, his children, all gone. He had kept this picture hidden for 6 months, unable to look at it without breaking down. Now he looked at their faces and made them a promise. They'll pay for what they did. All of them. 1 year after the massacre, humanity owned 30 warships. They were not pretty ships. Human engineers had welded together Zaltharian technology with their own designs, creating vessels that looked like they had been assembled from scrap. But they worked. And they were fast. The USS Vengeance led the fleet. Admiral Kyle Bennett commanded from its bridge. Next to him stood Commander Kara Mitchell, his tactical officer. Kara was young, but brilliant. She could see patterns in battle that others missed. She had spent the last year studying every piece of data about Zaltharian military tactics. They fight like they've never lost before, Kara explained during a briefing. They use overwhelming force and expect the enemy to surrender. They don't know how to handle opponents who refuse to quit. Jack Morrison remained on Earth, coordinating operations from Cheyenne Mountain. He had aged 10 years in the past 12 months. His hair had gone completely white. But his mind was sharper than ever. We can't beat them in a straight fight, Jack told his staff. Their empire has 12,000 worlds, billions of soldiers, thousands of ships. If we try to match them, ship for ship, we lose. So, what do we do? Asked Peter Harrison. He was a computer specialist who had built something new, an artificial intelligence designed specifically to predict Zaltharian strategy. He called it Cerberus. We don't fight fair, Jack said simply. We hit them where they're weak. We make them chase us. We make them scared. The first human raid hit a Zaltharian mining colony on the edge of their space. Ryan Foster. No, Ryan was dead. Captain Steve Martin led the attack now. His fighter squadron appeared from behind an asteroid field, launched their weapons, and vanished before the colony's defense systems could react. The mining facility was destroyed. 60 Zaltharian workers died. It was a tiny number, compared to what they had done to Earth. But it was a message. Derek Yang led the human Marines. They were the first orbital drop infantry, trained to board enemy ships in the middle of battle. Derek was a sergeant with 15 years of combat experience. He had survived 3 tours in the Middle East before the Zaltharians came. Now, he fought in a war that made his old battles seem small. His team struck a Zaltharian supply convoy near a world called Proxima 7. They used small pods launched from the Vengeance, too small for enemy sensors to track properly. The pods attached to the convoy ships like parasites. Derek and his Marines cut through the hulls and fought their way to the cargo holds. They did not just destroy the supplies. They stole them. And they stole something more valuable than food or weapons. They copied the ship's computer databases. Lisa Chen analyzed the data back on Earth. What she found made her heart race. "Jack, you need to see this," she said over a secure transmission. The Zaltharian Empire controls 847 different species. Most of them were conquered. Some were enslaved. They rule through fear and violence. "We knew that," Jack said. "But look at this." Lisa shared files on his screen. Rebellions. Dozens of species have tried to fight back over the centuries. The Zaltharians crushed all of them. But the resentment is still there. These species are waiting for a chance. Jack understood immediately. We're not just fighting the Zaltharians. We're starting a revolution. Lisa began a new project. She gathered every piece of footage from the massacre. The raw, unedited recordings of Earth burning. Then she broadcast it across the galaxy on every frequency humans could access. She did not add commentary or propaganda. She just showed what happened. 10 billion humans killed in 3 hours because they sent exploratory probes into space. The broadcast reached hundreds of worlds. Species that had suffered under Zaltharian rule saw the footage and recognized their own history. The Zaltharians had done similar things to many of them. On a world called Tarkus Prime, a species called the Tarkans watched the human broadcast. They had rebelled against the Empire 200 years ago. The Zaltharians had responded by destroying their capital city and enslaving 5 million Tarkans. The survivors never forgot. Now they saw another species fighting back, and the humans were winning small victories. The Tarkan resistance movement began planning in secret. Admiral Bennett's fleet continued their raids. They never stayed in one place long enough for the Zaltharians to catch them. They hit supply depots, damaged communication relays, and captured more ships. Each captured ship was stripped for technology and data. Kara Mitchell developed new tactics for each battle. She studied how other species fought the Zaltharians and learned from their mistakes. She realized that most species tried to match the Empire's military strength. That never worked. Instead, Kara planned attacks that were fast and unpredictable. "We're like a swarm of insects," she explained to her officers. "Alone, we're nothing. But together, in the right places, at the right time, we can bring down something much bigger." Peter Harrison's AI, Cerberus, predicted Zaltharian movements with surprising accuracy. The AI analyzed thousands of past battles and found patterns. It told the human fleet where enemy ships would be weak, where convoys would travel, where defenses would be minimal. But something else was happening across the galaxy. The rebellions were spreading. On Tarkus Prime, the Tarkans attacked their Zaltharian garrison. They used homemade explosives and stolen weapons. They lost many fighters, but they destroyed the garrison and freed their enslaved workers. On 3 other worlds, similar attacks happened within days of each other. The species were different, but they all followed the same pattern. Quick strikes. Hit the Zaltharians, where they were weak. Disappear before reinforcements arrived. They were copying human tactics. High Chancellor Vrax watched reports from his throne world. For 10,000 years, the Empire had been stable. Rebellions were rare and easily crushed. Now they were happening everywhere. And at the center of it all were the humans. "How is this possible?" Vrax demanded of his military commanders. "We eliminated most of their species. They have no resources, no experience with galactic warfare. Yet they are winning." His senior general, a Zaltharian named Cortax, studied the tactical displays. "They fight unlike any species we have encountered. They do not seek honorable battle. They do not follow standard protocols. They simply try to hurt us in any way possible. Then crush them," Vrax ordered. "Send the fleet. Destroy their remaining worlds. End this." Cortax hesitated. Chancellor, they have no remaining worlds to destroy. Earth is dead. Their ships are mobile. They have no fixed bases we can target. And if we send a large fleet to hunt them, we must pull ships from garrison duties. That will encourage more rebellions. Vrax slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. Then what do you suggest? Total extermination, Cortax said coldly. Not occupation. Complete destruction of Earth and everything near it. Turn their home system into a dead zone. End the human species entirely. Vrax considered this. It would be expensive. It would take time to assemble such a fleet. But it would send a clear message to the galaxy. Rebel against the Empire. And you do not just lose. You cease to exist. Do it, Vrax ordered. I want every ship we have. Assemble the largest fleet in Imperial history. I will personally lead it to Earth and finish what we started. On the Vengeance, Cerberus intercepted the Zaltharian communications. The AI translated the message and sent it to Admiral Bennett. Bennett read the report and his face went pale. They're sending everything. 2,000 capital ships. Maybe more. Destination: Earth's solar system. He opened a channel to Jack Morrison. Commander, we have a problem. Jack listened to the report. 2,000 ships against their fleet of 30. It was impossible. They could not win. But Jack Morrison smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been planning for this exact moment. Let them come, Jack said. The Zaltharian Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 2,000 massive warships, 15,000 cruisers, and 50,000 fighter craft. High Chancellor Vrax commanded from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 3 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. The fleet moved through space like a metal storm. Their destination was Earth's solar system. Their mission was simple: complete extinction of humanity. On Earth, Jack Morrison stood in the command center and watched the approaching fleet on long-range sensors. The numbers were overwhelming. His military experience told him this was unwinnable, but Jack had stopped listening to conventional military wisdom a year ago. Status report, he ordered. Megan Sullivan read from her displays. All evacuation ships have departed. The last civilians left the moon base 6 hours ago. Earth is empty. Except for military personnel. How many volunteers stayed? Jack asked. 3,000. Megan said quietly. They know they probably won't survive. Jack nodded. 3,000 humans against the largest fleet in the galaxy. The mathematics were absurd. But mathematics had never stopped humans before. Admiral Bennett's fleet gathered near Saturn. 34 ships now. They had built a few more using captured technology. Bennett stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and looked at his small fleet. Each ship represented months of desperate work. Each crew member was a volunteer who knew the odds. Sir, they're entering the solar system, Kara Mitchell reported. They'll reach Saturn in 2 hours. Bennett activated his communication system, speaking to all human forces. We're not trying to win today. We're buying time. Every minute we delay them is 1 more minute for our people to escape. Fight smart. Make them pay for every inch of space. Lisa Chen was not on any ship. She had stayed on Mars, inside an old research facility buried under the surface. She had work to do that was more important than fighting. Next to her, Amy Rodriguez and Peter Harrison worked frantically on computers. Are you sure this will work? Lisa asked. No, Amy admitted. We've never tested it at this scale. The Cascade Protocol could destroy the Zaltharian fleet, or it could create a spatial rupture that kills everyone in the solar system, including us. Then, we don't use it unless there's no other choice, Lisa said. The Zaltharian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. Vrax looked at the tactical display and saw the human fleet waiting near Saturn. So few ships. This would be over quickly. All forces, attack formation, Vrax ordered. I want the humans destroyed within the hour. The battle began. Captain Steve Martin led his fighter squadron into the rings of Saturn. The ice and rock provided cover. His fighters would emerge, fire missiles, and disappear back into the rings before the Zaltharians could target them effectively. It was like fighting from behind a curtain. Hit and run, Steve told his pilots. Don't get brave. Don't try to be a hero. Just make them bleed. The fighters attacked in waves. They destroyed dozens of Zaltharian cruisers in the first 10 minutes. But dozens meant nothing against thousands. For every enemy ship that died, 10 more took its place. Derek Yang's marine units launched from the Vengeance in armored pods. They targeted the larger Zaltharian warships, looking for any that had damaged shields. When they found weak points, they boarded. Derek led his team through the corridors of an enemy dreadnought. Zaltharian security forces tried to stop them, but the Marines fought with a fury that the aliens could not match. Every Marine knew they were buying time with their lives. Plant the charges, Derek ordered. His team placed explosives throughout the ship's reactor core. Then they evacuated, leaving the dreadnought to tear itself apart from within. Kara Mitchell coordinated the fleet from the Vengeance's bridge. She used every trick she had learned. Ships would accelerate around Jupiter, using the planet's gravity to build incredible speed, then ram into Zaltharian capital ships at relativistic velocity. The impacts destroyed both ships, but it was a trade humanity was willing to make. Divert power from life support to weapons, Kara ordered on one damaged cruiser. Fire everything, then abandon ship. The crew followed orders. The cruiser became a flying bomb, crashing into the heart of the Zaltharian formation and taking 6 enemy ships with it. But the Zaltharians kept coming. Their numbers were too great. Bennett watched as his fleet shrank. 34 ships became 30, then 25, then 20. We're losing, Kara said. She did not sound defeated, just stating a fact. I know, Bennett replied, but we've already held them for 40 minutes. On Mars, Lisa watched the battle through sensor feeds. She saw human ships dying. She saw the Zaltharian fleet barely slowed by the resistance. Her hand moved toward the control panel for the Cascade Protocol. One button press and she could unleash a weapon that might destroy everything. But she hesitated. Then something impossible happened. New signals appeared on every sensor screen. Warp signatures, hundreds of them. Ships were arriving at the edge of the solar system. At first, Lisa thought it was more Zaltharians. But the computer identified the ship designs. Tarkon, Vrelian, Korthax. 17 different species. All former subjects of the Zaltharian Empire, and they were all armed for war. The Tarkon commander, a being named Krell, sent a transmission that reached every ship in the battle. We have watched humanity fight. We have seen them strike back against impossible odds. The Zaltharians destroyed their world, and humanity did not surrender. They inspire us. Today, we stand with Earth. 400 Allied ships entered the battle. Vrax watched his tactical display in disbelief. Where had these ships come from? These species were conquered. They were supposed to be too afraid to rebel. All ships, engage the new arrivals, Vrax ordered. But his voice carried uncertainty for the first time. The battle transformed. What had been a massacre became a war. The Allied species fought with the same desperate fury that humans had shown. They copied human tactics, using speed and unpredictability against Zaltharian formation strength. Bennett saw his chance. All ships, target the Eternal Dominion. We end this by taking out their leader. The Vengeance led the charge. Steve Martin's fighters cleared a path through enemy cruisers. Derek Yang's Marines boarded escort ships and disabled them from within, and the Allied forces kept the main Zaltharian fleet occupied. The Vengeance crashed through the Zaltharian lines, taking massive damage. Hull breaches appeared across the ship. Half the crew died in the first minute, but Bennett kept the ship moving forward. Ram them, Bennett ordered. Sir, that will destroy us, Kara said. I know. Bennett looked at her. Kara hesitated, then saluted. She gathered the surviving crew and led them to the pods. Bennett stayed on the bridge alone. The Vengeance accelerated to its maximum speed. Vrax saw it coming and tried to maneuver his flagship, but the massive ship was too slow. The Vengeance struck the Eternal Dominion at full power. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Admiral Kyle Bennett died doing what he had promised. He hurt them back. With Vrax dead and their command structure broken, the Zaltharian fleet began to fall apart. Some ships tried to flee. Others fought on but without coordination. The Allied forces pressed their advantage. From Mars, Lisa transmitted a message to the remaining Zaltharian commanders. Her voice was cold and clear. Your Chancellor is dead. Your fleet is defeated. You can flee now, or you can die here. Choose quickly. The Zaltharians chose to flee. Of the 2,000 ships that entered the solar system, fewer than 200 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. The Battle of Sol was over. Humanity had won, but the cost was terrible. Jack Morrison received the casualty reports. The entire home fleet was destroyed. 2,000 humans died in the battle. Bennett was gone. So many others were gone. But Earth was safe. The Zaltharian Empire had thrown everything at humanity and failed. In the wreckage of the battlefield, human survivors searched for escape pods. They found Kara Mitchell and brought her back to Mars. She was injured, but alive. What do we do now? Megan asked Jack. Jack looked at the star map. The Zaltharian Empire still existed. They would rebuild. They would come back, unless humanity made sure they could not. Now we finish this, Jack said. The war did not end at the Battle of Sol. It spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The 17 species that helped humanity did not stop fighting. They attacked Zaltharian holdings on dozens of worlds. The empire that had ruled for 10,000 years began to crumble. Jack Morrison coordinated the war effort from a new command ship. The old Cheyenne Mountain facility was being rebuilt, but Earth would take decades to heal. For now, humanity's government operated from space stations and ships. The Zaltharians have retreated to their core systems, Kara Mitchell reported. She had recovered from her injuries and now commanded the remains of the human fleet. They're consolidating around their home world. Don, how many ships do they still have? Jack asked. Best estimate is 500 capital ships, plus support craft. They're hurt, but not finished. Jack studied the star map. The Zaltharian homeworld of Zaltharius Prime sat deep in their controlled space. Getting there would require fighting through multiple defensive lines. It would cost thousands of lives. Lisa Chen joined the meeting through a hologram. She looked exhausted. Jack, I need to talk to you about something. Privately. Jack dismissed the other officers and waited until he and Lisa were alone. What is it? Amy has perfected the quantum virus, Lisa said. The new version doesn't just disable Zaltharian ships. It can spread to any technology connected to their network. That includes their infrastructure, their communications, their life support systems. Quality. 46. Well, see. I'll see. Jack understood what she was saying. Their entire civilization runs on that network. Yes. Lisa's face was troubled. If we deploy this virus on Zaltharius Prime, it will spread across their entire empire within hours. Every piece of Zaltharian technology will die. Their ships will fail in space. Their buildings will lose power. Their medical systems will shut down. How many would die? Lisa looked away. Billions. Maybe tens of billions. Their population is spread across hundreds of worlds. Without technology, most of them will not survive. Jack felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was not war anymore. This was genocide. The same thing the Zaltharians had tried to do to humanity. Is there another way? He asked. We can fight them the conventional way. Board their ships. invade their worlds, but it will take years and cost millions of lives on both sides. Lisa met his eyes. Or, we can end this in one day. Jack Morrison had been a soldier for 25 years. He had fought in wars and seen death, but nothing had prepared him for this decision. He spent 3 days thinking about it. He talked to other human leaders. He consulted with the allied species. Finally, he called a meeting with his inner circle. Kara Mitchell was there. Lisa Chen. Amy Rodriguez. Peter Harrison. Megan Sullivan. And Derek Yang, who had survived the Battle of Saul by pure luck. I have made a decision, Jack said. But I want your input first. The question is simple. Do we use the virus and end the Zaltharian species? Or do we fight a long war that will kill millions more? Derek spoke first. They killed 10 billion of us. They did it on purpose. They wanted to exterminate humanity. Why should we show them mercy? Why? Because then we become them, Lisa said. We become the thing we hate. Amy added, the virus is a weapon of extinction. If we use it, we cross a line. The galaxy will fear us forever. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Kara said quietly. Maybe the galaxy needs to fear humanity. Maybe that's the only way to ensure no one ever tries this again. They argued for hours. Finally, Jack held up his hand for silence. There is a third option, he said. We modify the virus. We make it disable their technology, without killing everyone. We leave them stranded on their worlds, without the ability to threaten anyone. Then we put them on trial. Lisa looked thoughtful. It is possible. We could program the virus to shut down military systems and space travel, but leave basic life support intact. Would it work? Jack asked. Maybe. Probably. I cannot guarantee it will not have unintended effects. Jack made his decision. Do it. Modify the virus. We will end the Zaltharian threat, but we will not exterminate them. Over the next month, Amy and Lisa worked on the modified virus. They tested it on captured Zaltharian technology. When they were confident it would work, they prepared for the final mission. Jack personally led the strike team. They took a small, fast ship crewed by volunteers. Their destination was Zaltharius Prime. Getting there required stealth and luck. The ship slipped past Zaltharian patrol routes, using sensor jamming technology developed from captured equipment. They approached the homeworld from the dark side, hiding in the shadow of its moon. We're in position, the pilot reported. Jack looked at the device in his hands. It was small, barely larger than a phone. Inside, it was Amy's virus. One activation and it would spread through the Zaltharian quantum network like lightning. Do it, Jack ordered. Amy pressed the activation button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across Zaltharius Prime, lights began to flicker. Ships in orbit suddenly went dark. Defense platforms stopped responding. Communication networks crashed. The virus spread faster than anticipated. Within minutes, it had reached every Zaltharian world. Military ships lost power in the middle of space. Weapons, platforms, shut down. The Empire's entire defensive network collapsed, but life support systems remained active. Medical facilities kept running. Food production continued. The Zaltharians would survive, but they would not be going anywhere. Jack's ship escaped during the chaos. They returned to human space and waited to see what would happen. The galaxy watched in amazement as the Zaltharian Empire simply stopped functioning. Their military was grounded. Their fleet was dead in space. After 10,000 years of dominance, they were helpless. The allied species moved quickly. Tarkon ships secured Zaltharian worlds, ensuring the stranded population would not starve, but also could not rearm. Other species did the same across the former empire. Within a month, Zaltharian leaders were captured and brought to trial. A galactic tribunal was formed, with representatives from dozens of species. Jack Morrison testified. showing the recordings of Earth's destruction. Other species shared their own histories of Zaltharian atrocities. The trials lasted 6 months. In the end, the verdict was unanimous. The Zaltharian leadership was guilty of genocide and crimes against sentient life. The species as a whole was placed under galactic supervision. They would be forbidden from developing military technology for 10 generations. Their worlds would be monitored. It was not extinction. It was justice. 5 years passed. Earth slowly healed. Humans had spread across the solar system, building new cities on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. The population had grown to 3 billion, not what it was, but growing. Lisa Chen became Earth's ambassador to the new Galactic Coalition. It was an alliance of free species, dedicated to preventing another empire from rising. She worked with representatives from dozens of worlds, building a future based on cooperation instead of conquest. Kara Mitchell trained the Coalition fleet. She taught other species human tactics. The galaxy learned that war was not just about who had the bigger guns. It was about strategy, creativity, and the will to fight. Derek Yang returned to Earth. He opened a training facility for soldiers from different worlds. He taught them what humanity had learned the hard way: how to fight when outnumbered, how to win when victory seemed impossible. Jack Morrison stood at the memorial wall in what used to be Colorado. It was a massive structure, 3 miles long, covered in names. 10 billion names. Every human who died in the bombardment. He placed his hand on the cold stone and felt the weight of what they had done. They had avenged the dead. They had changed the galaxy. But the cost had been terrible. Do you think it was worth it? Megan Sullivan stood next to him. She had stayed by his side through everything. I don't know, Jack admitted. We survived. We won. But I keep thinking about the path we took to get here. We came close to becoming monsters. But we didn't, Megan said. That's what matters. We had the power to destroy them completely, and we chose not to, Jack nodded. That was true. Humanity had stood at the edge of the abyss and stepped back. Maybe that was the real victory. A signal came through on his communicator. Jack answered it, and his expression changed. What is it? Megan asked. Deep space sensors have detected something. A new fleet. Not Zaltharian. Something else. The Krell Dominion. They're expanding into the territory the Zaltharians used to control. Jack felt a familiar tension settle into his shoulders. The galaxy was a dangerous place. There would always be someone looking to conquer others. But now, they would find humanity waiting. Recall all fleet commanders, Jack ordered. Begin defensive preparations. Megan smiled slightly. Here we go again. Here we go again, Jack agreed. They walked away from the memorial wall together, leaving the names of the dead behind them. Those 10 billion humans had not died in vain. They had become the reason humanity united, the reason humanity fought back, the reason the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. Earth had learned a terrible lesson. When pushed to the edge of extinction, humans did not give up. They adapted. They innovated. They fought with everything they had, and they won. The story of humanity's war with the Zaltharian Empire spread across the galaxy. It became legend. Other species told the story to remind themselves that even the mightiest empire could fall, that even the most beaten species could rise again. Humans told the story too. But they told it differently. They told it as a warning. A reminder of what they were capable of when threatened. A reminder of the price of survival. And whenever a new threat emerged, whenever someone challenged humanity, they would remember the title of this story. Galactic Empire killed 10 billion humans on live broadcast. Earth initiated Operation Alien Extinct, and humanity made sure the operation was a success.